welcome to Moving the Chains. Of course, you're not seeing Ashmere because she's not here. She's actually in my backyard in Tampa. It's a personal business, so I'm going to sit in the host chair today. I will not be an analyst. I will be hosting the show today. But I brought in two guys who can come do that job very well. Cam is in the house along with Thomas Brown. Guys, a lot of NFL action heading your way. How y'all feeling about it?
Oh, man. Feeling good.
Feeling good.
Yeah, so for those that aren't aware, if you look in the top corner, you see the current score over in Munich. The Giants are trailing Carolina 10-0. We will keep that score updated as we go along. But we have some current events to talk about. So we're going to jump right into the first current event, and let's talk about, plain and simple, Dennis Allen. Right? We know Dennis Allen is now out in New Orleans. Many people felt this should have happened a long time ago. Nevertheless, he is finally out in New Orleans. What is next for the Saints? What do you guys believe is next for the Saints? Let's start off with you, Cam.
I think the next step for the Saints is figuring out what direction their franchise want to go in. Do they want to rebuild, or do they want to go out, target free agents, and restock this team? The way this team is constructed, I'm thinking they want to rebuild after trading Marshawn Lattimore and getting some draft picks. The next step is just getting rid of Derek Carr, honestly. It's not a good fit. It wasn't a good fit to begin with. You're paying the guy a lot of money to elevate your team. He hasn't done that. So I think getting a couple draft picks, tanking for a little bit in a couple years, hopefully revitalizing this team. But for right now, I think rebuilding is their next step.
Thomas, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, this was something that we saw before the season even started. And it's one of those things where, I can't even say that it is a shock or a surprise. I literally host a show where a segment of it is dedicated to the worst 5 teams of the NFL. And Cam literally had the New Orleans Saints at the number 1 spot for a reason. And I think that's largely dedicated to Dennis Allen and how he's run the operation since he took over the reins from Sean Payton. And look, honestly, 2-7, you could blame the injuries all you want. The players look like they didn't want to put a lot of effort out there for him on either side of the football, and you could just tell on a weekly basis, even after that 2-0 start that they had. It was only a matter of time before his writing was on the wall, and he was ultimately let go. Now, I think moving forward, I think you have to ask yourself, if you're New Orleans, like what do we really do? Because we already did a contract extension for Alvin Kamara a couple weeks ago, signed him up. Do we really start the quarterback clock over again by getting rid of Derek Carr, which I think is a smart move if we decide to do that today? You need to figure out where the rest of your weapons are going to be, because who knows if Chris Olave is going to come back to the field again after him suffering his gazillionth concussion. So, I mean, the list goes on and on about so many different question marks on the offense and the defense. The list goes on and on. Honestly, just get as much draft capital as you possibly can, like Cam said, and see what you can do from there. But this is a dumpster fire with cap space, with talent. It's not it's not pretty if you're in New Orleans today.
Yeah, I'm in that camp of people that said this move should have happened 2 years ago. Okay, yeah. I didn't think he was the person to replace Sean Payton. They did. The first year that he replaced Sean Payton, it shows you it wasn't going to get any better than that. It hasn't. The team was older. They were trying to keep, using the same formula. It was past that. It was obsolete. Okay, that formula was gone. All right, so it never got any better. They had a promising start to the season, and then after that, they've had injuries, yes, but the team overall when they lost to the Eagles, it was the same team that blew out Dallas the week before, that blew out Carolina to start the season. You could barely get to 10 points in that game. So all of a sudden, you started to see a change in the team. It got worse week after week after week. And then, yes, when they started Spencer Rattler, they caught on a little bit offensively. But overall, it still turned right back into what you saw, a defensive football team who comes out and maybe get some offense out of it. That is not a winning formula, especially for this team. In this division, teams are putting up points at a premium, even with 2 receivers down. The Bucs are still putting up points. Okay, so if you're going to win in that division, if you're going to win in the NFC, if you're going to win in the NFL, you need a lot more of a progressive approach. He is a very old school defensive approach, and it wasn't getting any better. And it was a waste of time to drag this out for 2-3 seasons. You should have done this a long time ago. Should have got a coach in there that's going to come in there and give you a brand new vision for this franchise. Utilize guys like Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave and those guys in better ways than they were being utilized for the past couple of seasons. This was not the way to go. And it took for you to go 2-5 before you finally said, enough of that. That hotline bling, it took you too long to get to that point, right? So at this point, if you're New Orleans, now you're in the middle of a season, you got a lame duck interim coach, you're going to do this season, and then you're going to have to go in there and look at this roster and say what needs to go, what needs to stay. At this point, you know what? Mickey Loomis should be on the train out too, because this whole thing is his idea. As a GM, he's the one that decided to keep Dennis Allen. He's the one that kept this roster intact the way it was for the past few years. He's finally started adding young talent to it. But you know what? Some fresh ideas. That whole regime from when Sean Payton was here, from GM down, got to go. You got to bring in a whole new set of ideas.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're at with that.
And I want to say this as well. Like, if you are a head coach who is looking for looking to be a head coach again, does this job even look remotely appealing to you? Like, if you look at some of these other, head coaching availabilities, like, okay, for example, the Jets, as much as everybody, including me, loves to trash the New York Jets today, you can't knock the fact they have Garrett Wilson. You can't knock the fact they have Breece Hall. You can't knock the fact they have some young talent on defense. You can't ignore that. So when you sign up to be a head coach of the New York Jets, you may not like the fact you have a 41-year-old quarterback starting for you, but at least you have some pieces to build around. When you look at New Orleans, it's like, yeah, I have Alvin Kamara, who had a resurgence for a solid 5 games, but it's a resurgence. This time last year, we were like, is he like rust? Is he done? Like, Chris Olave is not there anymore. The list goes on and on. It's like, who do you have? And then you're looking around. It's like, okay, well, what are my coordinators? Well, Kubiak looks like he might get some shine and be either offensive coordinator elsewhere or a head coach somewhere if he's able to, push his luck. It's like, when you look around, it's like, does that even look like an appealing position to even go after? I don't think so. So that's a whole nother ordeal within itself in New Orleans. It's one thing to be like, oh, you could be a head coach of this team and get, $5+ million. But to coach what? So
there you go. So looking at this situation, if you were saying, if I'm a head coach, does this seem appealing to me? 2 ways this is appealing to me. One, if you have a GM that's willing to take my input on the roster, if I'm a coach that believes that, especially a veteran head coach that believes I want certain personnel and I know the personnel is best for me, if I have a GM that's willing to take my input, it becomes appealing. Number 2, if you're a veteran coach and they're firing the GM and say, hey, listen, give me a football guy, but let me have control over personnel. Let the GM handle salary cap. That would be something different. that would be a guy that you bring in as well. If it's a brand new coach, it has to be somebody with a GM that knows talent, knows how to build a team. You can't have you might be lucky and catch lightning in a bottle if you get a younger GM with new ideas that goes with a head coach that's younger, and they both have a way of doing things different from the way commonly done. They bring a new set of ideas to the league. A copy, because it's always a copycat league. So, yeah, that might be it. Greg is saying hire Belichick, so we don't confuse Jerry Jones. Yeah, see, I'm not sold on the Jerry Jones Belichick thing. If people, right? Everybody else talks about Jerry Jones and saying he has too much control in this and that. Mm-hmm. Well, Bill Belichick wants control of personnel. The last time he did that was Bill Parcells, and him and Bill Parcells, they got along. People always said, "Oh, they hated." No, they got along just fine. Mm-hmm. But the problem was what he was able to do with Parcells, he probably won't be able to do with Belichick. He's not going to be able to override Belichick the way Belichick will get pissed off. Okay, so I don't think that narrative people are going to talk about it for too long in the offseason if Mike McCarthy's out. We'll get to Mike McCarthy at a different time. But right now, so just to polish up the New Orleans situation, we got some other stuff to talk about as well. Mm-hmm. Honestly, this has got to be a very progressive situation. They're starting the third quarter, so we'll jump back into the Monday morning game as well. But yeah, this has got to be something where if you're a Saints fan, you're looking at this season, it's a throwaway at this point. You're looking for the best draft pick. You're hoping that they could find some salary cap space. And plain and simple, you need some serious help in the offseason.
That's a lot of what ifs. It's a lot of what ifs there, Jeff. That's a lot of what ifs for that job to be appealing. That's a lot of what ifs going on.
This is why you got to have a 3-year plan when coming in. You can't come in there and say, we're going to turn this around in a year or two and expect it to happen. That don't happen very often in the NFL. You have to have a 3-year plan when you get hired at an NFL job, because you need to come in, you need to figure out what stays and what goes. That takes a whole season in most cases. Okay, so that first season is usually a throwaway. Okay, because you're trying to figure out what stays and what goes. Then you have to come in and replace what's going with stuff that's actually going to help you, whether it's free agency and the draft. And then you got to try and get the guys that you're keeping to elevate their game, because otherwise they're not going too. All right. So one of the things I learned when I was a first-time head coach is that sometimes veteran players can be your downfall. The guys that you bank on that come in, whether they bring them in free agency or they're already there, sometimes they get a little too comfortable on their laurels, and you got to replace them. As first-year head coach, that happened to me. We came in with championship aspirations. This team was just 2 years away from winning a championship, and veteran players were the first to quit. So it was like, wow, okay. So it was a huge wave of young players year two, because I was gone. You got to go. I can't have my veterans are the ones being the first ones going. Yeah, no, that can't happen.
Right. So, but that's the thing. That's the thing, though. That then, like, the situation is what's very important about all this as well. Like, it's not one of those cases where it's like, oh, you know what? Whoever we hire, we're going to give you 5 years to figure this out. We're going to give you a GM to pair it with, and, we'll ask questions later. We'll check in periodically. Like that's another thing with New Orleans. As much as we're talking about this being a rebuilding team, how much patience does the front office honestly have with their next head coach? Do they want to give them enough time to be like, hey, you know what? We're going to have to deal with the fact that we're going to suck for a couple years, and we're going to find our rhythm going forward. Like, do they have the type of patience to withstand that? Or are they one of those teams where the Raiders, for example, you blink and their whole coaching staff is gone by the time we get to week 13? Like, what type of front office do you have? And that's a whole nother question within itself as far as just this position entirely. Like, I know I was patient with Sean Payton, but that's because he was giving me winning season after winning season after winning season with Drew Brees and a potent offense, and my product was entertaining. So I was able to withstand some of those seasons where we were 7-9. It was worth it because at the end of the day, we were still having to win games, and we was entertaining. I can deal with being entertaining as long as we're not, being the butt of the joke. But now you're the butt of the joke, and you don't have a whole lot of cap space. You're paying people that's not even on your roster. Like, what do you like? How much patience do you have left if you decide to give another head coach a fresh start? Do you? So I don't know.
Well, we have a score update from Munich. How about this? To start the third quarter, signs of life from the Giants. It is now 10-7. All right, Carolina. At the start of the third quarter, early in the third, I should say. So, signs of life from the New York Football Giants. We've seen enough ineptitude in the first half. They seem to have gotten off the schneid to start the second half. Speaking of getting off the schneid, just to give everybody a little, familiarity where we are with the rapid fire picks. You guys are going to join in the fun this week and get your picks in. I already have Joe and Ashmir's picks for this week. For those that are wondering, Greg actually lone wolfed on Carolina for this game. All right, so Greg right now is biting his nails, holding Carolina holds on, but three of us went New York Giants in this game. But overall, and Greg will love this background, in honor of Veterans Day, we went with the United States Marine Corps, which is very near and dear to my heart. My father was a Marine. Ashmere still leads in the standings by one game over me. I just can't seem to catch her by that one game. We seem to end up with the same record every week the past couple of weeks. Greg went 9-6 last week, about a good 6 games behind Ashmere for the lead. Joe well above 500 now, closing in on Greg now, trying to get out of the basement of the pick segment. He's just 2 games behind Greg.
Wow.
Yeah, so, yes, and may I say, for those that don't know, we see Greg Rector. He's part of our The Last Word crew on Saturday nights. So Greg is a former Master Gunnery Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. So we salute his service as well, along with our other veterans that may be watching the show. A lot of veterans in my family: Marine Corps, Air Force, Army, Navy, the whole slew. So salute you for your service. To all the veterans out there. So we're going to get ready to get into our first game.
Sure.
All right. So we've gone through our picks. So you guys get those picks ready for later in the show. Just want to make sure we have everything in order here. So let's talk the game here in Tampa Bay. San Francisco comes to town, take on Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. We see the return of Christian McCaffrey. He's off of IR. Now, I don't know if he's playing today. I don't know if he'll be active, but he is no longer on injured reserve. So that's the first step in him coming back. Both teams need this game. Both of them are floating around 500. The Bucs need it just to stay alive for a wild card. It's going to be hard-pressed to catch Atlanta for the division the way Atlanta's playing right now. What do you guys see with this matchup? With, Tampa Bay trying to, get back into the South race. Meanwhile, the NFC West this year is a pool of mediocrity. So San Francisco in a normal year, somebody would be running away with this division. Not this year. Right now, it just seems like all of those teams are having hot and cold moments. And right now, if San Francisco gets healthy, which they haven't been all year long, they have a chance to overtake everybody. What do you guys feel about that?
Oh, man. I feel like we're getting to a point with San Francisco to where it's like, okay, like how many more excuses do we have left for you now? Because for the longest time, it was, oh, we don't have Christian McCaffrey. That's why our red zone percentage sucks. By the way, they're 28th in the red zone, which I think it's ridiculous. Christian McCaffrey's not out there. That's why they're not getting the job done in the red zone. Or, they don't have Deebo Samuels. He's dinged up. So, we didn't really have a deep threat. So that's why our offense is not really effective. Or, we don't have this or we don't have that. And I'm starting to get to a place where with San Francisco, I start to ask, what more do y'all need to be functional and to be productive as an offense? Because if Christian McCaffrey comes back and y'all still struggle to score, it's going to be a lot of eyebrows being raised by the time this game is done, whether y'all win or lose. And that is going to be the most important part of as I watch this game, just how the offense really fares throughout. But I just want to also say this. If I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, I feel so incredibly – I feel bad for Baker Mayfield. I do. I know everybody's not going to give him a lot of shine because they don't have the best record in the world. But if you look at how Baker's been playing this year, he's been playing like he's a top 10 quarterback. And I'm not even joking. He's been backing it up week in and week out with not a whole lot around him. Dipping it off to running backs and Rashad White and Bucky Irving. Cade Otton, who, by the way, has had 75 yards in 3 straight games. Like he's trying his best out there with not a whole lot available to him. So it's one of those things where it's like we get to see if San Francisco is really, just that one player away, or this might be a time to panic if you're a 49ers fan. Because if they don't get it done against a weakened Tampa Bay Buccaneers team on the road, like we're gonna have to ask a lot of questions about Shanahan. We really do. Like the conversation should start. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. It should be an entertaining game. Baker Mayfield is awesome, like I said. He just doesn't have a whole lot around him, which is why, it's hard to think that Tampa would win this game. But if San Francisco even remotely shows similar struggles that they've had so far this year, it's going to be a problem. And it's going to be a problem going forward, no matter who they play. So.
What about you, Cam?
Yeah, I think the big matchup about this game is how is the 49ers going to match up against this Bucs secondary, and this Bucs defense who's been struggling all year. We know the Bucs pass defense is almost dead last in the NFL, right with the Ravens. They give up the most touchdowns. They give the most yards gained. They're in the pack rush defense about 18-17. Not that good. Not really a Bucs defense that we're used to seeing like dominate on all levels of the field. So if the 49ers get McCaffrey back and it changes the whole scheme, makes players better, McCaffrey gets on the ground and makes Brock Purdy better, I think this will be a bad matchup for the Bucs. But like he said, I feel bad for Baker Mayfield. It's not much he could do. Like last week we saw him against the Chiefs. Baker Mayfield played one of the best games of his career, and it just wasn't enough. Like he tried everything he could do. He tried to use K-Dot and tried to use other guys, but they just don't have enough weapons on the offensive end. Like that Chris Godwin injury really affected this team. And then Mike Evans probably won't be back until they play the Giants. So it's just kind of confusing. Like you have Bucky Irving, you have other guys you can use, but you don't have a lot of weapons that can go up against that 49ers defense. And for the 49ers' sake, Kyle Shanahan has to win this game. Every week, every season, it hits a point where the 49ers are building up excuses. This guy's injured. This guy's injured. This guy's injured. Well, that's why you got all these all pros, all these Pro Bowlers on your roster to fill in for guys. You have Jawan Jennings. You have Deebo Samuel. I know he's not healthy. You have Brock Purdy. You have amazing defense. So at some point, the 49ers just have to play good because we've been seeing this over the last 4 to 5 years, every ending cycle. And then they sneak their way back up to the playoffs. And then when they get to the playoffs, it's like they can't get the job done.
I want to add this tidbit as well. We need to put a lot of eyes on that San Francisco defense that everybody typically lauds a lot. They're 25th on third down. I don't know about you, but that's something that doesn't usually happen in San Francisco, number one. Number two, they're 22nd in the red zone. So not only are they keeping these drives long against this defense, but you can score on them, which I don't know. Like that is a coaching thing. I don't think that's more so of a talent issue. That is something to where it's like, come on now. Like, where are your guys supposed to be at to stop these offenses? And I think that's another reason to pay attention to this game, because if Baker Mayfield starts really getting hot and getting really comfortable, and these running backs start getting effective, and Cade Otton starts getting the ball, and they start putting points on the board, time of possession becomes an issue. The hands not in the San Francisco's offense too often. Like, it's like, I don't know. So this game is for the 49ers as a whole, because so far this year it's shown that no matter what side of the football you're looking at, they've struggled mightily, and it's not good.
Yeah, I got another point. That's a good point because the Buccaneers have one of the best third down offenses in the league.
Yeah.
So you put that against the 49ers who struggle in third down, that actually helps out in the Bucs' favor.
Yeah, you got to look at that now. You got to. If you don't, you're just being naive. So this game is really something to see if Kyle Shanahan is good on his side of the football, like everybody says that he is. And are we going to keep making excuses for that offense? And B, is this defense really that good? Or is this a whole lot of names and that's about it? Like, we got to ask those questions now. We'll see.
Well, you see the losses that they've had on defense, right? Remember how dominant the defensive line was in the past, especially on the interior when they had DeForest Buckner and those guys on the inside, Javon Kinlaw. You're not seeing that dominance inside anymore, right? Teams are able to run the football a little more on them now. They're able to protect the inside of the pocket. So while they are getting pressure on the outside still with Bosa and company, they're not getting the same pass rush up the middle. They're not getting the same push inside and run downs. So you're starting to see kind of the chinks in the armor up front. You're starting to see things that happen in the secondary. When they lost Hufanga was playing amazing in that secondary. He got hurt. You saw a drop-off, right? So the safety play is not the same right now. So there are certain things with that defense, and we could probably attack scheme too. But overall, there's certain things with that defense that you're seeing. Probably part of it is age. Fred Warner's not a spring chicken anymore. He's been here a while. Okay, so you're starting to see certain things with this team defensively to saying, okay, you start to see a slippage in performance. That's where your offense has to overtake. You always saw that with Kansas City. When their defense was wavering and low, their offense was always high octane. But when their offense started to come down because they had to, eventually you couldn't pay all those guys. You had to go with younger guys. So Tyreek Hill had to go. And, originally the running back that returned now,
Hunt. Yep.
Kareem Hunt. When Kareem Hunt was there the first time, then he had to get paid. So they had let him go, and they've been reloading it with young running backs, cheaper running backs, right? So you saw a dip in their running performance, right? So what happened? The defense had to step up come playoff time in order for them to make those Super Bowl runs. So there always has to be a balancing act. The scales have to come back to balance. And when it's going like this, they have to come back to balance for you to go out there and perform and get the job done come playoff time. With the Niners, you're not seeing that right now. The offense was high octane. The defense was high octane. They were both playing at this high level. There was, and when one would struggle, the other one would kind of pick it up. The offense is struggling today. The defense will pick it up. You saw that with the Philadelphia game when they were, even though they lost 3 quarterbacks in that game, the defense was still playing well. It's keeping the offense in it. The offense just couldn't perform. It couldn't raise its level, right? So you're not seeing that right now. You're seeing offense middling out, and then you're seeing a defense that's trying to come up, but it can't. Okay, and that's part of the issue. They're not getting stops at key points of the game. They're not getting the consistent pressure that they once had. Okay, you don't get to beat up on Terrence Steele every week. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that we're seeing from San Francisco's defense now that you're not seeing from before.
And I want to say this as well. Caveat, breaking news. I do not care if you're struggling on either side of the football. This is the one team that everyone, including myself, said that this is one of the best rosters, if not the best roster in the NFL from top to bottom. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry if I don't have any sympathy when guys go down and you're asking for the guy to step up. Because literally, I've been told all year long that we have a top 5 head coach and we have a top 5 roster from head to toe. I do not have any sympathy if you struggle on defense. I do not have any sympathy if you struggle on offense. The last time I checked, Brock Purdy's still there. George Kittle didn't have a season-ending injury. Deebo Samuel has been out there. Brandon Ayuk, before he, had his leg blew out, he was out there too. Like, I don't want to hear this whole thing of, well, all we needed was Christian McCaffrey. Stop it. Oh, all we needed was Hufanga on defense. Stop it. I don't want to hear it. This was a top 5 roster from top to bottom. That's what we were told. That's what we saw on paper. And that's what we saw on the field the past 3 years now. So if you are struggling, it does become a coaching issue. Like, okay, what else do y'all actually need to piece it up together? Because we're running out of excuses.
Well, the Giants are looking for excuses because they just gave up another touchdown. They're now down 17-7 over in Munich in the third quarter. We'll have that score up momentarily. So we're going to move on to our next matchup. But you're exactly right, Thomas. This is the NFL. Nobody feels sorry for you if you're injured. Nobody feels sorry for you if you're hurt. You better go out there and perform or you're going to get embarrassed. We'll talk about that with certain other teams when we go through rapid fire. Okay, moving on. Kansas City, Denver. Big AFC West matchup. One of the things the Broncos were able to do, even in their miserable seasons when Russell Wilson was there, they were able to beat the Chiefs. Can they get it done today with Sean Payton's crew coming in, suffering a loss last week, looking to rebound? You got to go in the Arrowhead and get it done if you want to do that. So change it up a little for this one. Can you give me a way that Sean Payton and the Broncos can come in the Arrowhead and pull this off against one of the premier division opponents who hasn't lost yet?
Good luck.
Yeah, that's a difficult one, but I'll give an interesting one. They got to be more creative with the offense. Use Bo Nix's legs more. Allow him zone reads, all these different types of trick plays, get the defense confused. We saw last week against the Ravens when they did a trick play, Bo Nix is in the end zone, receiving the touchdown. Like, that's something to keep the defense off edge. And I didn't know Bo Nix was this athletic that he was. I mean, I saw it at Oregon, but the kind of offense he ran at Oregon, all his scramble plays, all his run plays was off script, not in the game plan. But you got to use Bo Nix's legs. Keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. Time of possession. That's the literally only way that you can beat this team. Because if you let Mahomes get the ball, he's just going to drain the clock down for 8-9 minutes. And good luck.
All right. Thomas, on the other hand, you're Kansas City. You're unbeaten. You have a team that's had some success against you coming into your house. How do you stop this team from coming in and making this the highlight game of their season in your house?
do the same thing that I've been doing all year long. Win. Finding a way to win. That's literally all Kansas City has done all year long, was finding a way to win. It didn't matter how sexy it was. It didn't matter how ugly the game was going to be. They just find a way to win. And I think with Kansas City, everybody's been talking about their offense having these issues, Mahomes being this, Mahomes being that. They're not being effective. Guys, it's 4 straight games that they've had 26-plus points. Like, we can keep playing this game if you want to. They're going to mess around and start turning points into 30 on the scoreboard really fast. And I think that with them having to get Kelsey involved a lot more and DeAndre Hopkins getting into the fold, I mean, these guys combined for 22 receptions and 186 yards last week. Like, it's one of those things where you can nitpick this offense if you want to, but as far as I'm concerned, if they are constantly getting the job done on third down, which they do, if they're constantly winning time of possession, which they do, if they're doing their job as far as the defense is concerned and being in the top 5 defense, that's what they'll do. Like, that's literally it. And that's all that you can ask for with Kansas City. We don't need you to be the splash play, 1 touchdown drive, 2018 Kansas City Chiefs. That's just not what y'all have right now until Xavier Worthy, can be that for y'all. But he's not there yet. So for right now, win time of possession, run the football effectively. I know Kareem Hunt had 100 yards, but it was on 27 attempts. They didn't really do it on an effective rate last week. But if you can win time of possession and the offense can roll in the manner that it's been doing the past month, I don't see how you lose that game. I really don't. And that's with a stout Denver defense as well.
So when I look at this matchup, I'll say this. Division opponents can be funny. Somehow familiarity plays one of the biggest roles in how teams play each other. We see it before. An undefeated team can go through the best teams in the other conference, goes up against the division opponent and loses. And I think what you're looking at in this situation is a Kansas City team that we all know is vulnerable. They've been vulnerable all season long. They scrap, they claw, they do everything they got to do to win a ball game. Denver's the same way. But the problem with Denver is they are unable to come back from deficits. And I don't mean 7 points. I mean when they get down double digits. They are inconsistent at coming back from those deficits. Some of those games become blowouts. Some of those games get close at the end. That's one thing I think they can't afford to do. You want to beat Kansas City and Kansas City, you can't let them get to a double-digit lead. Granted, they're not the greatest at running the football and running the lead out, but they showed you with Kareem Hunt they're willing to do it. Okay, unlike what they had on Isaiah Pacheco, they couldn't do it, and they weren't going to do it. They were going to throw the ball at some point, trying to close the game out. Here, now back with Kareem Hunt, with a power back, a guy who's effective, highly effective between the tackles, they're willing to do that. They're willing to go traditional 4-minute offense. They're willing to come down there and say, we're going to hit you in the mouth and kill this clock, and then we'll let Patrick Mahomes hit you with that third down play to keep the drive going, and then we'll run it at you some more. You can't do that against this team. You can't go out there, get down double digits, and expect that you're going to get chances because Kansas City can't run the football. They don't care anymore. They could average 3.9 yards a carry and still run the ball at the end of the game. So I think that's the key for Denver is you got to have success early. You got to stay in this game. You can't let it get to double digits if you want to win, and you've got to come out and make the big plays when you need to defensively to keep you in the game. So We've gone through 2 games. We got 2 more to go through. Then we got our rapid fire picks. We have the traditional guys rapid fire picks. We have Joe and Ashby's picks already since they're not here today. But you guys get to join in the fun this week. As we say, our honorary picks, so you get to make the guest picks as well. And Greg will be in the chat with his picks as well. But we'll be back right after this word from our sponsors here at Moving the Chains. Hang on tight, folks.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build the cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gold Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel farther, and live harder. # built for the wild.
How are you, NFL fans? The season's on the way. We hope you're enjoying the games. But always remember, whether you're there to support the home team or the visitor, be on your best behavior. Everybody's there to enjoy the game and go home safely. Don't just take it from me. Take it from Buckify Bird himself.
And everybody, just keep in mind, we want to demonstrate good sportsmanship. I mean, I'm just not going to be fanatical just to be fanatical. I want to be fanatical to be phenomenal in the community. So I want to have good fans, good sportsmanship, and everything. Every time I go to the game, if you win, yeah, okay, good game. And if maybe we'll get you the next time. But that's how we're going to do it. We don't have to have all of the fighting and all of that. No, we don't necessarily. Not necessary. The only thing we need to do is keep in mind good sportsmanship. Arrive to the game, enjoy the game, go home, win or lose.
That's right. Don't just be fanatical, be phenomenal, just like Buckify. Make sure everybody makes it home safe. Enjoy the games responsibly. Enjoy your alcohol responsibly as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Are you looking for an energy boost during the day, but you don't like the coffee crash? Be sure to check out Clean Cause. They have delicious yerba mate teas with 150 milligrams of caffeine, but without the jitters. They also donate 50% of their net profits to help with drug and alcohol addiction. Interested in more? Click the link in our bio to get your first case.
You are watching Team NBS Media. We are a digital media brand covering sports, entertainment, and lifestyle, with team members all across the country. Through our written content, podcasts, and video content, we bring you fresh and professional content. Interested in joining the team? Shoot us an email or DM. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
And we are back here on Moving the Chain, sponsored by Clean Energy. Make sure you get your Clean Energy drink. Yes, they have an official sponsor on this show. So we're going to make sure we get them their shout out and their love while we talk football. So we're back to talking football. It's still 17-7. Giants have the football. They're about to end the third quarter, so we'll get that score up momentarily. Meanwhile, we're about to move on to our next opponent matchup, and we're going to start with – we'll save the Sunday night matchup for last. So let's jump over to a matchup that's kind of intriguing. There's 2 teams that are very surprising this year. A lot of teams had these teams middle of the division at best, some around the bottom of the division. Here they are fighting for division leads. We're talking about the Steelers and the Washington Commanders. So both of these teams, like I said, are surprising a lot of folks. The way they're playing, we've seen the Steelers with 2 different starting quarterbacks still going out there winning ball games. That defense is playing phenomenally. The Washington Commanders, their rookie quarterback, Jalen Daniels, out there getting the job done. Okay, plain and simple. He's out there in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. He's seamlessly transition to the NFL game. His receivers are out there making plays for him. This defense has stepped up with their pass rush. A lot of the additions that came over with Dan Quinn from the Cowboys. We're going to start this off. How, Thomas, since you're an NFC East guy, and this will be pertinent for your Eagles later in the week, all right? How do the Steelers contain Daniels in order to win this ball game?
Yeah. Honestly, at this stage in the game, hope and pray. Hope and pray that TJ Watt can run contain very well, and everybody else on the defense can stick to their assignments and stay home. Because other than that, I got nothing for you. Jaden Daniels right now he's not your typical rookie quarterback. Like, this isn't one of those scenarios where, he's just getting hot and then, all it takes is that one top 5 defense to make him come down to earth. This is not one of those tales. This guy is having one of the highest completion percentages in the entire NFL as far as quarterbacks is concerned. If I'm not mistaken, he's top 5. So stopping him from completing passes, that's probably not going to happen. Okay? But I do know that he, occasionally likes to escape the pocket. And I feel like that's when TJ Watt needs to be the disruptor. TJ Watt needs to wreck shop, and he needs to wreck it often for this game to be close, for the Pittsburgh offense to be effective, and to have a lot of short field. I know I'm putting a whole lot on one guy here, but that's really all you could really do. But in fairness to Pittsburgh, they are second in the NFL in points per game allowed, so we don't expect for it to be a high-scoring affair from Washington. But, with them also being first in the red zone defense, like, they're playing fantastic. But, man, I don't know. When you're going against an offense that's top 5 in yards per game, points per game, third down conversions, I don't got much for you. I really don't. I would say rush 4 and send 7 back and hope for the best, but Daniels can pick that apart too. Like, this isn't your typical rookie quarterback, and we're seeing that so far this year, which is unfortunate for a team like the Philadelphia Eagles that has to go up against them this upcoming Thursday night, because it seems like no matter what you do, you can do QB contain, you can have a QB spy if you want. He's just going to pick you apart regardless. You're just going to have to just sit there and take it. You just have to hope and pray that it doesn't break you down to the point that you lose the game. So as far as the Steelers is concerned, TJ Watt would have to be very disruptive, have to get in his face, pressure him a lot. Highsmith will have to get involved as well. But even then, that Pittsburgh secondary, y'all just better stay with y'all man. Terry McLaurin cannot have a big game. Noah Brown cannot have a Hail Mary-like performance again. We can't have a repeat of that. So, and I know I'm asking for a lot with a Pittsburgh defense, but if you're asking what will it take to hold down Jaden Daniels, that's all I got. Because there ain't a whole lot more that you can do.
So, Cam, on the flip side, you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You found a little more life with Russell Wilson being able to get the ball down the field. Tell me, what is the key for y'all, if you're Pittsburgh, to go out there, get a lead, and maintain it for 4 quarters versus this Washington team?
I think the key for Pittsburgh is just sticking with the game plan, running the ball, using our receivers. Not sure how active Mike Williams will be this game. I know he's been adjusting to the playbook ever since the trade, so that's another key factor to look in. But use Jaylen Warren, use Najee Harris, keep running them, like keep the time possession, keep Jaden Daniels off the field. And the good thing about the Steelers is they play running quarterbacks very well. They always have. It's just in their system. The defensive players know their assignments. They go up against Justin Fields and scout team every single day in practice, so they know how to play against running quarterbacks. That's not the struggle. But the struggle with this is just keeping Jaden Daniels off the field, because the Commanders do have a lot of weapons on offense. And if you don't keep them off the field, there's going to be drives where they eat up the clock. They score quick. And Pittsburgh just has to score. Like, it's been a struggle all year for them to score. I know the last couple games, Russell Wilson's been heating up ever since they switched over to him. He's been doing good, but they just have to keep scoring, keep in their game plan, defense off the field, just things like that is going to help the Steelers win this game.
All right. So just to step in, we're in the fourth quarter, 17-7. Giants have the ball. We're driving. Malik Neighbors with a big catch goes down. Looks like he might have another concussion. Hits his head on the turf, stays down. Seems to be grabbing his head a whole lot walking off the field. So we'll monitor that situation. As Greg said, Chuba Hubbard is having a great day. 19 carries, 138 yards so far. Carolina's running the ball all over this Giants defense. But back to the game we're forecasting here. What can Cliff Kingsbury do? And this is for both of you guys. What Cliff Kingsbury can he do to negate that pass rush, but also keep things on track? You know, you want to be able to go out there and play your kind of game. You don't want Pittsburgh to dictate the kind of game you play. What can he do to do just that, to keep them on pace, to keep the ball moving down the field, to allow your quarterback to make plays without taking a beating from this vicious Pittsburgh pass rush?
It's simple. Win time possession and run the football. I mean, they don't have Brian Robinson again today. They're gonna have a lot of Austin Eckler today. Run the football. Do some screen passes if you need to. If you need to do some read options, do that. But whatever that causes for him not to stay in the pocket, do it. Like literally. If that means you have to do slants all day, if you want to be a slant merchant, do it. If that means you need to do a drag route every 5 seconds, do it. Like whatever that you need to do to get the ball to your hands, do that. Because TJ Watt's coming. And I want to give a shout out to the Commanders' offensive line because they did not allow a sack last week. And I know that it's the Giants, but the Giants have done a pretty good job. If they don't do anything else pretty well, they do a good job at getting after the quarterback. Okay.
Yeah,
and they did not allow a sack last week. So do I expect for that to continue today? Probably not. But, you know, you want to get the ball quickly out of your hands and you want to try to dominate the running game. And you want to do it effectively. So that way, you know, hey, even if you're not scoring touchdowns, you're putting a lot more points on the board because you're, you know, every time you touch the ball, it's going through the end zone. Some way, somehow. Touchdown or field goal. That's all you could ever ask for.
One thing that they utilize a lot, Cliff Kingsbury is an air raid guy. Mm-hmm. Air raid is very heavy RPO. Right. Okay, and that's how the run game is built off the RPO. But it also attacks down the field. But in order to attack down the field, you got to be able to slow that pass rush down. One of the ways you do it is with the RPO. Mm-hmm. Teams that run a lot of zone struggle with RPO because your linebackers are biting on the run action. It creates a separation in the zone, but it was to throw those quick throws behind it. So if I'm Pittsburgh and I want to slow this offense down, you have to do something that's very dangerous. Play a lot of man coverage because man is what will slow down RPO. But when you have a mobile quarterback like Daniels, it's very dangerous because if he breaks contain, there's a hard dude to get in an open field. So it's a very dangerous proposition, but you have to do it. You have to bring the pressure. You have to do different looks and kind of confuse them where the pressure is coming from, especially in that odd front. That's what it's built on. So the Steelers are very good at disguising their blitzes. However, you got to be able to play man behind it and take away that quick throw. If you can take away that quick game from the Commanders, you have a better chance of forcing them to hold the ball and allowing TJ Watt and those guys to get there. You have a better chance of forcing a throw that gets his arm hit as he's throwing, he gets picked off, you're getting a turnover. So you got to do stuff like that in order to slow this Commanders offense down. Now, in certain cases, zone kind of worked, right? We saw that with Chicago. Chicago did a good mix of man and zone, gave him a lot of the same two high looks. He wasn't sure what he was seeing at times. He's forcing throws into some zone coverage. He was forcing throws in some man coverage. They did a good job of slowing him down. Unfortunately, they didn't do a good job on the Hail Mary at the end. Otherwise, they walk out of there with a win. But it shows that you can play zone behind it, but it's not advisable that you do that a lot. You have to have a perfect way to disguise your coverages if you're going to do that. So to me, you got to be able to play man. And if you're not capable of doing that, you're going to have a hard time because they will catch you in those zones. Moving on to our final matchup. All right, and we're going to talk a little fantasy. And then finally, we'll get to rapid fire. So let's talk about the big night matchup tonight. Detroit at Houston. Mm-hmm. All right, so the Lions, Texans, both division leaders. Both of these teams have been very hot as of late. Even got, Keegan-Michael Key to do the promo for the game tonight. Look at that. So this there was a time when we used to laugh at this matchup and say, how's this in prime time? Here it is in prime time, and it is one of the elite matchups of the weekend. But guys, we're going to start this off with you, Cam. You're Detroit. You're on the road in Houston. Your bread and butter is tough defense. Go out there and run the ball. Bite them in the kneecaps, as everybody likes to say. That's the new cliche when it comes to the Lions. What do you do in this situation? You have Houston, who's a roughneck team. They got this hot young quarterback who can go out there and sling it. But this year, we're seeing where, he can take a beating and turn the ball over. So what are you doing if you're the Lions, knowing that you don't have your best pass rusher? You did, add some pass rush via trade recently. So what are you doing to get to as far as to get to C.J. Stroud in this offense?
I'm thinking you just keep trying to do the same thing you've been doing every week. Like you said, we've seen C.J. Stroud this season struggle and have a lot of turnover-worthy plays, and that comes a lot from the blitz and pressure. So for the Lions, sit in the house. Blitz. Keep going. Man coverage, blitz every single time. That's the problem that C.J. Stroud is having this year. Do not let him go through his progressions. Do not let him hit his second or third read. He'll throw it out. He'll get outside the pocket. And we know when C.J. Stroud's not that athletic enough to move around guys like Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels. So he'll be trapped. And the Lions know how to contain quarterbacks. So just keep sitting in the house, keep sitting in the pressure. The Lions secondary is going to hold it down. They're one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Kirby Joseph is back. He's having an all-pro season this year. And you got to keep sending the pressure, confusing him with different types of zone, different types of coverages. Because C.J. Stroud's mind is not there right now. I've been watching him over the last couple of weeks. It seems like he's uncomfortable, and now getting Nico Collins back is going to give him that little edge. So don't allow him to get Nico Collins. Don't allow him to get early. Send pressure on them early. Put them in a bad position to come back from behind, and that's what the Texans can't do. Don't allow Joe Mixon to get outside the backfield. So honestly, keep C.J. Stroud contained inside that pocket and make him beat you with his arm.
On the other side of this, Houston, defensively, you're not as stout as you were last year. Last year, your defense was stifling opponents, allowing your offense to go out there and do what it did. This year, on the other hand, they're playing pretty well, but not the stout defense it was last year. You're having a lot of games where you're losing leads. How can they overcome that this year with all the things that happened? They've lost Diggs for the season, so that's another thing. The big signing that they had this offseason is now gone. So you need C.J. Stroud to play well. How do you get him playing well, and how do you get this defense to come up with some key stops?
Honestly, do what has led y'all to win in the first place, which was get Joe Mixon involved and often. The guy has had 100+ rushing yards in 4 straight games. Run him and run him often. You're going to get a score out of him. You got Nico Collins back. You got Tank Dell there. You're literally rehashing everything that you did last year with the addition of Joe Mixon. That's literally what the offense is right now. If I am C.J. Stroud, let me say this now, because I know a lot of people are talking about how, he doesn't look the same as last year. Let me break it down for you, scholars. Hey, I wouldn't be comfortable either if I have an offensive line that has turned into turnstiles and matadors for a huge part of the season. Okay, I wouldn't feel comfortable throwing the football either. And that's literally what's been the case with CJ, where the typical the typical out routes that he would usually dot on any given drive, on any given possession, he's now not too comfortable to do that, because every time he blinks, there is a defensive guy in his face hurrying his throw or waiting to sack him. Like it's literally that. So I think what's key for them is that you need to run the football, have to control time possession, and you have to have these quick throws with CJ, because the offensive line right now is not playing well. And especially, I don't know how much of Zadarius Smith we're going to see tonight, but if he becomes a vital part of that defensive front, like I assume it to be, it can get really ugly really fast if they don't protect CJ Stroud and set up a game plan properly for him to throw the ball quick and often. Because Tank Dell is going to find a way to get open. Nico Collins is going to find a way to get open. Nico Collins has been out since week 5, and yet he is number 1 in yards per game with 113. So it's very fair to say that if you get Nico involved, he's going to lead you to a lot of opportunities in the red zone. So get those quick opportunities to Nico, quick and often, Tank Dell as well, and run the football. Because I can't ask for much out of the defense, because the Lions is going to just pummel you with Sonic and Knuckles. I'm still trying to get used to that dynamic duo. That I can't believe that's what they're called. But Sonic and Knuckles, I had to get used to that. Sonic and Knuckles is going to dominate this game. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is going to dominate this game. But we already knew that. We already knew that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to get his as well. Sam Laporta is probably going to get a couple receptions himself during this game. So the Lions is going to do Lions things. It's going to be up to the Houston Texans as far as their game planning to make sure that they hit the guys that needs to get the ball early and often, to make sure that they're even remotely competing in this game. Because if they don't and they lose time of possession, it could get pretty ugly. And as you saw when they played against a team like the Vikings earlier on in the season, if they lose time of possession quickly, they don't show up the rest of the way. So they have to figure that out like quickly, like in the scripted plays. The first 15, they have to achieve that in order for them to stay remotely close against the Lions, because the Lions are coming regardless. They are.
So, like I said, we're going to go to rapid fire, so we'll get everybody's predictions on these games in the rapid fire segment. As we're getting very close to that. Give me your surprise players for this game. There's always one guy in most games that people don't expect to have a big game. Who do you think is going to be a surprise player for each of these teams? Give me one for Detroit, Thomas. Give me one for Houston, Cam.
Go ahead, Cam.
I'm going to go with Tank Dell. I think he's due for a big game. He's due for an actually really big game. And I know he's coming off still dealing with the injury every single week, and he's been nagging. But at some point, he's going to have a breakout game. And with Nico Collins back, I feel like the defense is going to center their game plan around stopping Nico. And that's going to open up Tank Dell for the outside routes, the middle of the field, the deep shots that CJ Stroud likes to throw. So if they can get Tank Dell involved, then that goes really well for Houston. So I'm going to go with Tank Dell. I got him 8 catches, 145 reception yards.
Okay, what about you, Thomas?
Oh my God, 145. My goodness. I didn't know the Lions defense was going to turn to Swiss cheese tonight, but if that's the case, I'll take it because I got Tank Dell on one of my fantasy teams, so I'll take that, no problem. But I think for me, a surprise big time game, it would not shock me if Sam Laporta turns up and has 7 receptions, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It would not shock me at all. The Texans defense is 30th in the red zone. So that gives a lot of opportunities for Sam Laporta to get involved to begin with. And I think with the way that the Lions offense is ran, if they could find different spaces in that zone coverage that the Texans love to run, Sam Laporta is going to get his. And he's going to get his often because there's not a whole lot of linebackers that can run with him. And I don't think the Texans have those linebackers to run with Sam Laporta. So I would think Sam Laporta would have a game, 6 or 7 receptions, 80-plus yards, and 2 scores. I can definitely see that happening tonight.
So what I've learned when I see 2 teams with wide receivers that people want to focus on, and they want to take away plays on the inside, the guys that usually either are 1 or 2 areas. It's usually the running game, or it's that tight end or slot receiver that's on the inside with the matchup. To me, I believe right now that if you're looking at this matchup, I think the tight ends are going to eat. I think Laporta's going to have a good day. I think when you look at it, Dalton Schultz is going to have a good day. Right now, you're looking at 2 tight ends that could potentially change the game. Now, Schultz is not a huge down-the-field threat, but he's a guy that you can consistently go to on third down, extend drives, you go to in the red zone. Those might be the guys that get it done. I know I called this for your Eagles last week. I said the guy that was going to go out there and get the touchdowns and make the big plays wasn't going to be A.J. Brown. It was going to be Devontae Smith, and Devontae Smith came through for you guys, right? So I'm thinking it's going to be those tight ends again. But this time it's going to be Laporta. This time it's going to be Dalton Schultz. I think because teams they want to put those 2 safeties over the top and take away those big plays, and maybe bring one of them down at times, cheat one down for the running game. But overall, they don't want the vertical threats. We know Jameson Williams can get vertical on you. We know Amon-Ra has that ability, but they love to work him in the middle of the field and on the outside of the numbers. So look for Laporta, because Laporta will get vertical on you at times. He'll get behind those linebackers underneath the safeties, find a nice big gap in the intermediate zone, catch and run. All right. He'll hit you in the red zone over the top of a safety. He can do that. So don't be surprised those guys have a pretty big game tonight. So we've got through all 4 of the matchups. We're going to touch up on some fantasy. So first, let's talk about number 1. Who is a must start for fantasy owners today?
I'm going to go a must start. It's going to be a tricky one. A lot of people might not agree with this, but I'm going to go Taysom Hill with the Saints. The Saints are in a bad position right now.
Okay.
And they're just going to try anything to get this team going, any type of juices going. Alvin Kamara is still nagging with injuries. He's been nagging with injuries all season. So I don't expect them to run him into the ground like they usually do. And I know Taysom Hill is finally healthy. He's fully healthy. They're going to have him back in the backfield. They're going to have him at tight end. They're going to have him in a slot. They're going to have him doing wing gadget plays. And this team is going to try to do something creative to keep this fan base, to keep these general managers interested in this team, because at this point, it's either do or die every week for this team.
Wow.
How about you, Zach?
I am not gonna lie. I was prepared for so many options. Taysom Hill was not on my bingo card. I will give you that. But he does have a nice matchup. I'll give you that. I think for me, and this might be another shocker to some, I have Jonathan Taylor as a must start. This is a Buffalo Bills defense that is allowing a lot of receptions and a lot of receiving yards from running backs. Joe Flacco didn't really have a lot of time to throw the ball to anybody else because of the pressure that Minnesota brought to him last week. But I think that changes. I think Taylor gets involved in the receiving game. I think he gets a rushing touchdown as well. I think he really shows up against his Buffalo defense, catches them off guard, if you will. I can see that as a must start. Solid, 12 to 15 points out of Taylor today. I can see that happening. And that's one of my must starts. The other one I was going to go with was Saquon Barkley, but I figured I would, save everybody some grace by not mentioning the Eagles today. I'll try not to. It's not easy.
Well, I'm glad you didn't, because I was mentioning the Eagles and I was saying Saquon Barkley because plain and simple, looking at the matchup, all right, you have a Dallas defense. Yes, they will have Micah Parsons back. You still won't have Deron Bland back. You're still going to be running zone. Those receivers and tight ends from eating you up in the secondary. With that happening, Saquon Barkley is going to eat him on the ground. He's going to catch him out of the backfield. Saquon Barkley is going to get a steady diet along with the other running backs that the Eagles have. But expect Saquon to have a nice night against Dallas. So, fantasy owners, if you have Saquon Barkley, you get that plate ready because he's going to eat. If you're going to get Saquon Barkley, I hope you have a good plan for all the fantasy points he's going to put up against you. So either way, Saquon Barkley is a easily safe bet today. All right. Now, we've done the low-hanging fruit. All right, who are your sleepers for fantasy today, owners today?
I got one.
Go for it.
What you got?
It's not really a sleeper because this guy has been consistent, but people would shed away from this guy because of the matchup they're going against. I'm going to go with Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is going to have a big day. They might not win the game, but Bo Nix is going to have a big day. Like you said, Jeff, the Broncos always play the Chiefs well. Like, this team knows how to game plan against the Chiefs. Sean Payton knows how to game plan against winning teams. They went up against the Ravens. It was kind of a bad matchup because that day the Ravens defense somehow woke up and was dominant. Like we saw last week against the Bengals what happened. But like Bo Nix is going to let him use his legs. He's going to rack up fantasy points. I have him on my team. I've been switching between him and C.J. Stroud every single week, and every single week I pick C.J. Stroud, and that's why I'm 4-7 right now.
Well said. I think for me a sleeper pick would be Justin Herbert. I don't think he's getting a whole lot of love this year because I don't know. Maybe it's because he's in LA and there's a whole lot more things to distract yourself when it comes to LA teams. But he's been playing pretty well this year. I know he doesn't have a whole lot around him, but the last 3 games, he's had 275 plus passing yards. I know Tennessee's defense is a little bit, can get a little bit feisty, but I think this is an opportunity for him to get Ladd McConkey involved, to get Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston involved. And I think you're going to see him being very productive. Might be looking at a couple touchdowns for him, but if you don't get the touchdowns, you're definitely going to see a lot of completions. You're definitely going to see a lot of yards on his end, which will be enough for him to be very dominant today in the afternoon slate. So I got Justin Herbert as being the sleeper pick for this week.
I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts in Atlanta. But we know about the all right. We went to about Darnell Mooney getting all the big plays on the outside. We know that the other receiver's a little beat up. London's a little beat up. So why not go to the big tight end that you drafted to be this matchup nightmare? I think they finally figure out how to really utilize his full skill set today because they're going to need it. If you're going to go out there and beat New Orleans and keep them from having that division upset and trying to feel good about themselves after watching the head coach get fired, You got to go out there. You got to get this young man involved early. You got to find ways to get him in those matchups versus those safeties, who he's a way better player than. Let's face it, there are no safeties, even Tyrann Mathieu in New Orleans, that really match up with Kyle Pitts. It's a matchup problem. Take advantage of it. I think they finally, and I'm going to put it in quotes, in all capitals, are finally get it done in Atlanta and get Kyle Pitts a real breakthrough game.
I want to let everybody in on a little secret. We've been saying that he's better than a lot of safeties for the last 3 years. Haven't seen it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. When Arthur Smith was there, it was the most frustrating thing in the world. As a guy as a guy who's a coordinator who understands matchups, I watched Arthur Smith and go, "What are you doing with this kid? You're not utilizing him. Just running him on typical tight end stuff. Yes, he can get open doing that, but you know what? Moving him around the formation, creating matchups, that's the new age NFL. All the guys they call offensive gurus do that. Why does everybody hire a McVay guy? Because that's what McVay does. Okay, so when you look at it, that's what Shanahan does. He does it with McCaffrey, right? Moves him around and creates matchups. It's a matchup league. If you're not taking advantage of a matchup nightmare, why do you have it? Okay, so that's where the Falcons have messed up. They've been trying to do that. They've been doing it with Bijan Robinson. Why are you not doing it with Kyle Pitts? I don't understand. It's like, okay, well, we got Bijan. He's a matchup nightmare, but you got number 8's a matchup nightmare too. You got to learn to move him around. You don't have to keep playing him in line. You can move him around as a move tight end. That's highly effective. Okay, how was Hunter Henry highly effective for many years up until his last couple of years in New England and bouncing around? He was moving around in Tennessee around the formation, creating matchups. Jonnu Smith, not the biggest tight end, but you moved them around and created matchups. All right. So you have a player that talented. How do you not move him around and create matchups? It's the dumbest thing in the world. We're going to run a tight end screen to Kyle Pitts. Yes, that's creative, but not creative enough. Okay. You should be getting him on the move in space versus teams not just dumping it off to him and saying, okay, be an athlete. So They found little ways here and there. You've seen them line them up wide and match up against the corner and run fade in the red zone. That's smart, but that's not what you do in the middle of the field, right? You move him around, get him matched up on a safety or a linebacker, make that guy cover him in space, and it's a big different story. You can give him option routes when the team's running zone, running him on those deep over routes. He has the speed to do all that stuff. There's times that they do it, and then they don't come back to it. And it's frustrating watching it because I understand you got to get Drake London involved. I understand you got to get Mooney involved. But if you get Kyle Pitts involved, what it does for everybody else is amazing. They figured that out a long time ago in Kansas City with Kelsey. You got him involved. It opened up everybody else, Tyreek Hill. It opened up Mecole Hardman. It opened up everybody they had there, even when you had Juju, okay, the first time. They got him again now, right? So – you got to really take advantage of those matchups. So, oh no, I didn't wake up Thomas. He was already woke up. Thomas been hitting from the beginning, guys. They were just jabs. Now he's throwing hooks. Okay?
No, He's on to me. He's on to me. The moment you said Kyle Pitts, I almost felt like I was dead inside and was resurrected. I don't know. And I'm saying this as a fantasy owner of Kyle Pitts.
I knew you were going to say fantasy owner.
I was not prepared for that one.
Listen, there's a lot of fantasy owners upset. As a guy that scouted the guy, I have been frustrated with offensive coordinators, how they utilize them. You can't just line them up. Because unless you're going to focus throwing the ball at him, when you line him up, he's not going to produce a lot. No tight end does that in the league unless you're going to focus throwing at him and create matchups. Even Kelsey has his low points because you can focus at him all you want. Teams are going to roll and do things that way. But you got to be able to go out there and put him in a position to succeed for you. He's an athlete at the tight end position. He's big for a wide receiver, a little narrow for a tight end. So that's why you don't put him in line all the time. But if you move him around the formation and create matchups like you do for Bijan, you'd be surprised what you can do with Kyle Pitts. But once again, they do it 3 or 4 times a game. You should be doing the whole game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and you know what? As a fantasy owner of Kyle Pitts, I will say that aside from a couple duds, he's been performing pretty well. I will say that. I wouldn't say, he's the best tight end in fantasy. Definitely not. But definitely put him in the top 5 conversation. I would say that. He's been playing well enough to be in that discussion. So pretty good.
Greg's getting antsy. He's like, rapid fire time. Yeah, we know, Greg. We're going to get to the 12:30 hour, but we're going to get through this, right? So, okay. We finished up fantasy. We got the matchups, and it is absolutely rapid fire time. Just to remind everybody of the standings for rapid fire. You guys get the honorary guest standing, so you don't get any. You don't get to own the losses if you have any, but you don't get the win credit either. So, but nevertheless, we do get you on the record win-loss. So, but that's where we are. Ashmere still in the lead by 1, followed by this very debonair gentleman, 1 game behind her, with Greg behind, and Joe closing in on Greg, trying to push Greg into the cellar of the standings. All right, so we're going to pull up the first set of rapid-fire picks. Joe's and Ashmere's picks are in already. And it is time to make ours.
I just want to say this. The Giants aren't really going to lose this game, are they?
They're working on it. They're working on it.
They're going to lose this game. It's going to be a pick. Daniel Jones is going to throw a pick. We know this. We know how to.
He's already thrown one.
He just threw one in the red zone. They got a turnover in the red zone.
He can get one more.
And he threw it right back. He threw it right back. And you literally say he threw it right back because he threw it behind the guy where the linebacker was. He basically gave the linebacker a gift. Yes. Yeah. So now they have the ball with 2 minutes left in the game, trying to drive again to at least get in the field goal range to tie this game. So they're working on the loss. Whether they do lose is something different.
Okay. The Panther is going to mess around and get another coach fired in back-to-back weeks. I cannot believe this.
So I know right now, Gunny Rector, Master Gunnery Sergeant Rector, is a little tight because the Giants have the ball, and he lone wolfed on those Panthers. So He was feeling good for about 3.5 quarters. little tight now. Little tight. All right. So, all right. Both Ashmere and Joe went San Francisco.
Okay.
Greg, throw in the chat who you want for this game. I am going to take San Francisco on the road. They haven't been impressive on the road this year, but I think that they get it done with the injuries at wide receiver for Tampa Bay. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a battle, but I think they get it done here in the Bay Area. Even though it's early and it's East Coast time, I think it's going to be a battle, but they get it done on the road in Tampa Bay. So give me San Francisco. And Greg is going Niners, so we go unanimous there. What say you guys? Who do you guys have in this matchup?
I'm going to go San Francisco. I think the 49ers pull it out today. I think McCaffrey's presence is big.
I have an upset. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this game. I think we get to see San Francisco show just how bad things are, and they don't stop Baker Mayfield on third down. I think that's going to cost them.
So we're going to move on to the next matchup. The Bears are who both Ashmere and Joe are taking. I picked them against New England. They've burned me. I picked New England. They've burned me. I've picked the Bears. They've burned me. But in this matchup, I trust the Bears a little more. So I'm going to go Chicago as well. I'll let you guys pick while I'm waiting for Greg's pick. So who do you guys have in this matchup?
A part of me wants me to really see a lot of chaos ensue and have the Patriots win this game because why not? But I think realistically it should be Chicago. But you know what? F it. I want chaos. I think the Patriots find a way to beat them. I cannot wait to see how Twitter looks if the Drake-led Patriots have a game-winning drive against the Chicago Bears on the road and beat the Bears. I would love to see that. Give me the Pats. Give me the Pats.
What about you, Cam?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Patriots too. I think Dre May is gonna be like, okay, you guys had Caleb over me. Now it's time to show me why I'm better than him. So I think it's gonna be the Patriots, and I think the Bears are gonna struggle on offense once again.
Yep.
They need more than Travis Hunter, Greg. But
I was about to say, but that's a great start.
We get the draft. That's going to be a fun evaluation draft season. I can't wait. Buffalo at Indianapolis. Both Ashmere and Joe are taking the Bills. Indianapolis has been a hard read. Very hard read. Greg is taking the Bills. All right. And once again, I agree. I think the Bills get it done. But Indianapolis just doesn't go away. But they make some bad mistakes. And when you think that they're going to pull it out, they let you down. When you think that they're dead, they show you they're not. So they're a very hard read. What do you guys think about this matchup?
This is tricky.
A hard read because what Flacco are we going to get? That's the only question. I have to go with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is right. He's the second leader for MVP right now. He's been playing phenomenal. Best that I've seen his career, no turnover. So I have to go with the Bills. They're playing the best football of his career right now.
I think it's going to be extremely close. It's going to be extremely close. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. But I think Buffalo sniffs it out. I think so.
The Giants are in field goal range with 17 seconds left.
Oh, my God.
Yes. So here we go. All right.
Are we going to seriously have a game in overtime between these two teams?
Listen, loser is going to be in the driver's seat for the first pick of the draft.
I thought that was the point. The game should have ended in a tie. Like, what are we doing? Wow.
Well, you may get that wish.
Oh, actually, I don't really want that. Actually, no, I do. That would be hilarious. Two of the worst teams in the NFL go down to a tie because no one wants to win. That's hilarious. Love to see that.
All right. So Minnesota at Jacksonville. Both Ashmere and Joe are taking the Vikings. Greg, what say you? We know Trevor Lawrence is injured. So once again, if you're pulling the Jags for the Jags, so Greg is going to take Minnesota, although he wants the Jaguars to win, but he's going to take Minnesota. It's okay. Listen, I don't really care who wins. I'm just here to tell you who I think is going to win.
Right.
And right now, I'm telling you right now that the Minnesota Vikings are going to win this game. Right now, Jacksonville isn't playing the greatest, and now you've got injuries at the one position you can't afford to have it at, is your quarterback. Okay, so even though, yes, they did pick up Mac Jones, I don't think it makes a huge difference with him. So yeah, I'm going to take Minnesota. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm taking Minnesota. I think Jefferson continues his streak. 120 yards, 6-7 receptions. And I feel like this game, Sam Darnold doesn't turn the ball over.
Oh, don't jinx him like that. That sounds like a pick waiting to happen now. But I got to go with Minnesota as well. They're going to establish time of possession. And it might be a blowout by the time we even get to halftime. So I'll take Minnesota. Why haven't they kicked a field goal yet? What is going on here?
Yeah, that's the question.
There's 13 seconds left. There's only third down. So, yeah, we'll keep you, abreast of the situation. Kansas City, Denver. As much as Ashburn hates to pick the Chiefs, she's picked the Chiefs along with Joe. Greg is going with the Chiefs. Listen, I think Denver, like I said, they've surprised us in the past. I don't think it's the game they do it. Maybe in Denver they get them, but I don't think they get them in Arrowhead. So give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't think it's a conversation. Give us Kansas City, which means a team that's been struggling on offense goes to 9-0. Y'all keep playing this game if y'all want to.
Yeah. I'm going to surprise pick. Bo Nix ends the Chiefs undefeated season today.
I like it.
Patrick Surtain, pick 6.
We don't have Joe's. We don't have Joe's lone wolf soundbite this week, so I'll make it for you. Lone wolf and McCaffrey. All right.
Wow.
All right. So Joe and Ashby are taking the Falcons. Greg's taking the Falcons. Listen, I can't pick the Saints right now. They're in a bad situation. Maybe firing the coach sparks something, but right now, until they show me different, can't pick them. How about you guys?
Falcons. That's the end of discussion. Falcons.
There you go.
Yeah, Falcons. Even if the Saints put up a lot of points, the Falcons still going to find a way to win the game.
Right.
So we are officially tied with 5 seconds left over in Munich. So looks like they're going to be headed to overtime, barring some freak play at the end of this game in the next 5 seconds.
Don't you say that, Jeff. They don't mess around and have a kickoff.
It happens. It happens. All right. So Commanders, Steelers.
Oh, this is
maybe we'll get a break here because so far we're almost all on the same page right now on our picks. We've had you and Cam step out and go the opposite. You want me to go first? Well, I can't go first. We already have 2 picks in for the Commanders. So, but I will go before you, Greg, on this one because I was prepared to lone wolf on the Steelers on this game. I think the Steelers can get this done at home. I mean, on the road. Sorry, on the road. So don't be surprised. I think Pittsburgh defensively is a tough team. I think they're playing a little more consistently offensively with Russell Wilson right now, which is shocking because he's not the same Russell Wilson from 2 and 3 years ago. But nevertheless, I think Pittsburgh gets this done tonight.
Yeah, it's two even close teams playing against each other today. Honestly,
I'm not lone wolfing. We're splitting on this.
I think for my sake, I would love to do the Steelers, but something just tells me that the Commanders going to win this game. I'm going to go with the Commanders.
Okay. What about you, Cam?
You're not lone wolfing on this one. I'm going to go Steelers.
Okay. With the 2 guest picks, it's an even split 3-3. Look at that.
First time Jaden Daniels is going to face a defense like the Steelers. The Steelers are different types of defense, the environment, the energy. They're going to rough him up, and he has to be physically and mentally ready to play against them.
Absolutely.
So we're officially in overtime in Munich, by the way. Officially in overtime. So they're out there for the coin toss. We'll see who gets the ball first there. However, there's no overtime right now for this pick. Tennessee goes to L.A. to take on the Fighting Hardballs, as I like to call them, the L.A. Chargers. Both Ashby and Joe went with the Chargers. I have been on the Fighting Hardballs train for a while. Who's got it better than them? Nobody, and I'm going to stick with that pick this week against Tennessee. Give me the Chargers.
Chargers, without question. This Titans team is a joke. It's a joke. Give me the Chargers, please.
What about you, Cam?
Once I saw Will Levis is starting, I immediately went to Chargers.
I totally forgot he was starting.
Charger. And Chargers minus 14 for you bettors.
Oh my God! I didn't even know he was. Oh, yeah, that's gonna get real ugly.
Yeah, he's back. Yes, Will Levis is back.
Him and all his male-induced cologne.
So we have the first split between Joe and Ashmere on the next pick. Jets at Arizona. Ashmere is going Jets. Joe's going Arizona. Greg, throw your pick in the chat. I am going Arizona. I do not trust the Jets at all. Yes, they surprised us last week on Thursday night, but I still don't trust them. So give me Arizona. What about you, Greg? What about you guys?
Go ahead, Cam.
Greg is going Arizona.
I'm gonna go Arizona. K1's been playing amazing recently. He's gonna keep it up.
Yeah, I got Arizona too. Their defense is starting to play well too, which they're a little bit of an unsung hero today, but they've been playing well as of late. I got the Cardinals.
So Ashmere with the lone wolf on the Jets, the Jets, Jets.
Yeah,
they
end their season today.
For most of my life in New York, you know what that meant? Jets, Jets. Just end the season.
Just end the season.
That was what that meant for most of my adult life when I was living in New York. My young life too. They had the sack exchange for several years, and then after that, it got real bad. But Connie Carberg will beat me up for that. She'll beat me up for that. So we'll talk about her Jets. All right. Eagles, Cowboys. Thomas, you're grinning from ear to ear because we know what's coming. Both Joe and Ashmere know what's coming. They got the Eagles. Greg's got the Eagles. I'm going to say, as the song goes, where have all the Cowboys gone? It's called Injured Reserve. Give me the Eagles. I'm not even going to ask you, Thomas. You're everything about your scene right now says it all. So, Cam, what say you?
It's not even no question. It's the Eagles.
There you go. Okay.
Not even Superman could save this Cowboys team.
I've said it on X.
Mm-hmm.
Mike McCarthy's first year in Dallas starts out with an underperforming defense. He loses his quarterback. They're losing. The season just got worse from there on out.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the last year of his contract. And this is mirroring his first year in Dallas. Underperforming defense, quarterback hurt, most likely out for the season, and they're losing. They're 3-5. Okay, and I think it just gets worse from here on out. So give me the Eagles, but we're probably going to see Mike McCarthy go out the way he came in, which unfortunately no coach wants to do.
Which sucks because he doesn't deserve it. And I'm saying that as an Eagles fan, he doesn't deserve it because that's not his doing. That's all Jerry. But we already know that, and he's going to end up being the scapegoat anyway. And I'm honestly tired of it at this point because this happens every single time.
I'll say this portion about it, Mike McCarthy. This year is partially his doing. And I'll say that because he wanted control of the offense when he got rid of Kellen Moore. And have you seen his play calling?
I've seen it.
Yeah. It's like, whoa, dude. Now I see why Aaron Rodgers was complaining about you. Stuff that doesn't make sense is getting called. It doesn't make any sense. And it's like, I get it. You've got challenges on out. I see it. That offensive line is young. It's being rebuilt around an existing playoff team. You have one of your top receivers on injured reserve. No telling when he's coming back. Your star receivers beat up and kind of has like an attitude problem. Your quarterback has to do it all, and he's really not built to do it all. So. And you have an aging backfield with a couple of realistically overachieving young backs. This Rico Dowdle's overachieving. Deuce Vaughn in spurts has overachieved, but he's pretty much what he is. So you have Zeke Elliott, who's older. You have Dalvin Cook, who's older. Your line doesn't really block very well in the running game. you calling a running game isn't very good. Too much soft finesse blocking, not enough power. You get this big offensive line that doesn't want to move people. They want to shield and turn people. You got to move bodies on the line of scrimmage. So, part of that is him. Because when I look at the play calling, part of that is Mike McCarthy. This offense is inconsistent because there's times he's calling stuff that doesn't make any sense to me. Certain runs on 3rd and 5. It doesn't make sense to me when you want to be aggressive on an opening drive. So, there's times with Mike McCarthy throwing the ball vertical on 3rd and 1. Doesn't make sense to me. So, with Mike McCarthy, some of it is his doing. Yes, the roster.
That's what I'm talking about more so than anything else. The roster. It wasn't a problem when they beat Cleveland week 1. Nobody complained about it. But when they started having issues with injuries and the depth started coming out, there's issues. But that's also part of what it is when it comes to the salary cap. They know they got to sign Micah Parsons next year. And people are going, you're sitting on $25 million. Yes, because in the new age of the salary cap, if you have a cushion at the end of the year, you get to roll that over to next year. They're trying to roll over as much to sign Micah Parsons next year. So I understand where they're coming from with that. So spending that money is going to have repercussions next year. I get it. However, still got to try and win now. So they could have done certain things better than they did. They haven't done it. So that's on them. They believe in young players. Well, they better do it with the young players or else, So getting a little too preachy. All right, here we go. Back to rapid fire. Lions, Houston. Both Ashby and Joe are taking the Lions. Greg is taking the Lions. I'm taking the Texans. I think the Texans. Okay. Wow.
So I will lone wolf out of that crew. What about you guys?
Lions. I think the pressure is going to get to CJ Stroud often. I think the Sonic and Knuckles combo. I still got to get used to saying that name. I really do. They're going to pummel that defensive front, and that's going to be the end of that. And the game's over. Wow.
Yes, I got the
Carolina Panthers walk off a field goal to top the Giants in Munich. So Greg's lone wolf is paid off already. Greg, look at that.
Oh, wow.
They always find a way.
They find a way.
Always find a way. Good for Bryce Young, though. Clap it up for Bryce Young.
That's 2 games in a row now.
That's 2 wins.
That's 2 wins in a row. Good for him.
But, I'm gonna go with the Lions. It's not even a question. Lions easily.
There you go. So I get the fully lone wolf on that one. Look at that. All right. Rams, Dolphins. Both Ashby and Joe are going Rams. Both of these teams have burned me so many times. Do I lone wolf again and go with the Dolphins here? Not the way they're playing. Give me the Rams.
I don't know, Jeff. The Dolphins offense I've seen with Tua back in the fold seems like a team that's competent again.
But their defense isn't.
And their defense isn't. And that's exactly why I think it's going to be a closer game than people are going to give it credit for.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, look, you know what? I'll be the lone wolf here. I'll go with Miami. Okay. Something tells me that something's up to snuff in LA. Stafford throws a wonky interception and it costs them. I can see it. Give me Miami.
Gotcha. How about you,
Ken? Yeah, give me Miami. Last week, Stafford got lucky that Geno Smith threw 2 straight interceptions in the red zone. Rams shouldn't even won that game. So give me I think Tua finally has one of those big games, and hopefully Tyreek wakes up. But remember, he's one of the best receivers in this league.
Since we're a weekly show, we pick on Sunday. Mm-hmm. We do add the Thursday night game in, so to our picks for rapid fire. So, divisional matchup: Washington, Philadelphia. Joe and Ashmere were split on this one. Ashmere is going Philadelphia. Joe's going Washington. Greg is taking the Commanders to destroy. Is exactly, matter of fact, I'm going to put it on the screen so you can read it yourself. All right, destroy the Eagles on Thursday night is what Greg is saying. So, all right, so do we go split? Does Ashmere lone wolf here?
Cam, I'm gonna let you go first because it seems like Greg is about to go through therapy after this Sunday and then having to watch this upcoming Thursday. So I'm gonna let you go first.
Yeah.
Before you go, I'm going to make my pick.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Because what I'm going to do is I'm either going to make this a lone wolf on the board here, or I'm going to split the panel. And growing up, there was no team I hated worse than Washington. Till Buddy Ryan came around. And boy, oh boy, that team in Philadelphia skyrocketed past them real fast. All right. So, but I must say, if there's anybody I believe takes a hold of this division in the second half of the season, it's the Eagles. Give me the Eagles.
Go ahead, Cam.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to Eagles. I think no matter what you think how he played this year, the Eagles still have the better quarterback. And he's going to prove to everyone, all the doubters, why he's still a top 5 quarterback in this league over these last couple weeks.
My name is Thomas Brown Jr., and I approve this message. And I did not bribe him to say that, by the way. Just want to put that out there. Look, bias aside, okay? Divisional matchups are always tricky. We are at home, though, which does give us a little bit of advantage. I think the league is going to be on fire for this one because this isn't a traditional Washington-Philly game. This is a game where we're going to look back at this and be like, oh, this might be a matchup that determines who wins the division. So I think off of that alone, give me Philly. And I think Saquon runs up and down that Commanders defense. And we look up and we're like, oh, Jalen Hurts has yet again found a way to not throw an interception during that game. No turnovers, which he's done a whole lot since the bye week. Not a whole lot of turnovers on his end. So I have the Eagles, bias aside. I have them taking that one on Thursday night. They're at home. If this is on the road, I think this will be a little bit of a different story. It's a little bit of a toss-up that way. But Philly at home, I'll take it. I'll take Philly. Fly, Eagles, fly. Oh, yeah.
Listen, if I'm a New York Giants fan, I'm sick right now. not just because you just lost to Carolina. And granted, they're probably happy that they know that the season's over anyway. They're going to get there right now in the driver's seat for the top pick in the draft. They can get the quarterback they want. A lot of them are tanking for Cam Ward as the hashtag, right? But if I'm the New York Giants, I'm sick right now. Right. And the reason being is 2 years ago you had a choice. Oh, last year you had a choice. Sorry. Okay. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley.
Say it.
2 years ago, really. But not last year you had a chance again to resolve it. You didn't resolve it the first time around. You had a chance to finalize the decision this offseason. You finalized it by saying we don't need Saquon. We can replace him and move on. And Daniel Jones, we still believe he can still be the franchise. I don't even have to say it. Just the score says it all. Okay? The record says it all. Okay? And he's not the only issue with this team, but he's damn sure the issue with the offense. Okay? All right. And the head coach knows it. The head coach knows it. Okay. My favorite saying is the easiest thing to do is screw yourself. They're doing a great job. They're doing a great job of it. So, guys, I appreciate you guys for coming on. Thomas, fill them in on the shows you're doing because you're doing some great work here at Team NBS Media. Let them know where they can find the rest of your work.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the second time you've seen my face this week because the first time you usually see my face is on Wednesdays, where I am a host of the Rankings Roundtable show. We do every Wednesday night, 8:35 Eastern Time, PM, of course, you fools. We have the Rankings Roundtable show. Everybody discuss their top 10 list. It is hilarious. I have debuted a new bottom 5 list. It's no longer called the bottom 5 list. It is now called the Stinky 5. So that is now a staple on the show. I am very excited for that. Also, we have Off the Dome co-hosted with me and Brock Vieira on Fridays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Actually, we have a special edition Sunday evening, 7:30. Tune in. We're going to be covering a little bit of everything during the football Sunday, so tune in for that. And I think that's about it, man. If you want to follow me on any social, at _ terrific Tom _ because it's infinite around here. That's what we do. Instagram, you name it. That's the tag to follow me. You can talk about anything with me, sports, whatever. We can chat all day long. So that's where you can find me at. And yeah, that's about that. And fly, Eagles fly, of course. Yeah.
Hey, Cam, give him a chance to let him know where your work can be found. Once again, you do some great work out there. So let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all of that. Cam Bryce 1 TV, covering the Baltimore Orioles, do a lot of MLB coverage. If you're into baseball, come join me. I also do a little bit of NFL coverage and also have a podcast called Let's Talk About It. You can check that out on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.
There you go. All right. So thanks again for joining this week. We appreciate it. We'll have Joe and Ashmere back next week, most likely. But you guys are welcome once again to pop in. We'll probably try and get more people on to pop in and do a few more things for us. But thanks for guys for coming on and doing some great work today. We're going a little over, so we got you. We're going to get you out of here right on time for the 1 o'clock kicks. So make sure you enjoy the games. Make sure you're tuning in to all of the great work we're doing here at Team NBS Media. This has been Moving the Chains. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next week.